Hello fluffy people of the world, my name is Liquid Blitz and welcome to a special one-off video on my channel. So about a week ago I finally finished the entire Dark Souls trilogy. I played each game back to back across the space of about a year on my channel, so it's all fresh in my memory and I thought, you know what a better way to send off the entire Dark Souls series than do a full boss tier list. Just my opinion about how good or how bad each boss was. I thought it'd be a fun little thing to do, so let's get stuck in. Before we even begin, I'm gonna go ahead and give a massive disclaimer here. I only played each game the one time for the channel, and I haven't seen anyone else's playthroughs or any clips or anything, so I only have the one single experience by which to judge all of these bosses and how fun and how good I think they were. And it's going to be so subjective. Especially like Dark Souls 1, I played that like a year ago at this point, so my memory might be a little flaky, and it's going to be subjective in the sense that the build I chose to play with might be great for one boss and then awful to play with against another boss, so, you know, a boss that I really enjoyed, you might hate, or vice versa, so please keep it civil in the comments. And don't dislike the video immediately if you disagree with one of my choices. I'm going to judge these very loosely based on a list of things I've written. First of all, sort of design and aesthetic, how challenging and or frustrating I found the boss. Overall fun factor, and also a little extra nudge, depending on if they've got any extra interesting sort of story or lore behind them, because I like that sort of thing. These are in game order, but within each game they're not in boss order, so we're starting with Dark Souls 1, but we're starting with Iron Golem. So, Iron Golem, the boss at the end of Sen's Fortress. I still have horrible memories of that place, but that boss was pretty cool. I think I got it on my second attempt, if my memory is correct. And it's a big suit of armor with some slams. I think it's got a grab move and it can toss you off the edge. I found that quite fun. Relatively easy, it wasn't that challenging, and I do love me a good gigantic soldier or just like suit of armor, and that will come to dictate many of my ratings, but it was awesome. It was a bit sort of one-dimensional in that there wasn't much of a variety with this boss, so it was kind of decent, but I wouldn't say it was S tier. I wouldn't necessarily even say A tier. It was decent. I enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm just going to start off by throwing that in a B. Now I might change these as I go through them, but let's just move on. There's so many to get through, I need to not spend much time on each one. Next up is a big one. It's Gravelord Nito, one of the big 4 or 5 guys. Okay, Gravelord Nito. Yeah, this had a bunch of ads if I remember right, and I've never been a big fan of multi-target fights, as you'll come to see, but ads don't really count. They're sort of weak enough that they are not that troublesome, kind of, unless they swarm you, but I'm not a great fan of ads. My favourite boss fight is just me versus a dude one-on-one, so that notches it down a couple of pegs. It's sort of gimmicky. I felt the run back to this boss arena was actually tougher than the boss itself. And when you're using a divine weapon, it was relatively easy, so it wasn't that challenging either. I'm going to go ahead and put this in a C. It doesn't particularly stand out as an awesome fight to me, not particularly memorable. So let's move straight on. Next up, Gaping Dragon. This is one of the ugliest, but in a good way, sort of visually like, whoa, sort of bosses in all 3 games. Now, I've got to say, my main memory of Gaping Dragon, it was very, very, very easy, because when he did that charge move, it was like a 12-second thing, easy to dodge, and you could just walk around his side and hit his foot to death. I mean, there was basically no challenge. I think I did this while cursed on half health, and I did it on my second attempt, if memory serves. So basically, I felt there was no challenge with this, but it had an amazing visual design. It was the first time I've ever seen a dragon with just teeth for our face and our body. So design is like S tier for this, but challenge is like E or F. It was the culmination of going down the depths, which was a hell of a good time, a good challenging time. So it's kind of middle of the road. I'm just going to put everything in like A, B, C, or D. Just everything's going to be middle of the road. But I'm going to put this in a B. It was very satisfying to destroy it, I will say that. Especially on such an early attempt. Second attempt. Yeah, definitely B tier. Next up, ooh, it's a doozy. Great Grey Wolf Sith. Oh my god. Okay, well this is going straight. I didn't enjoy this fight at all. It sucked. The music sucked. I'm just kidding. Calm down. No way am I putting that. A massive wolf wielding a massive sword. And it's Sith. The legendary Sith. Counterpart of Artorias himself. I really enjoyed this. This is one of those moments where, as I fought this boss, I didn't sort of appreciate it as much as I have come to since then, if that makes sense. I actually really... There almost isn't anything cooler than a massive wolf wielding a massive sword. And the story implications are so great with this. I can't remember the music of the fight, sadly. The moveset was very cool. I particularly loved his pounce back jump, where he jumped away from you and swung it like did a 360. Cool aesthetic, cool moveset, not too difficult once you learned it. I mean, this is either an S or an A. I'm gonna put it in A. I might change my mind at some point. For me, for something to end up in S tier, it's got to have everything basically where I wouldn't change anything, and it was just perfect. Although by that definition, I would probably put it in an S. I might upgrade it to S later, but I'm going to leave it as a high A for now. Next up, ooh, it's a biggie again. The Four Kings. Now, you remember what I was saying about not particularly liking multi-target fights? I mean, I'm not going to keep going on about that, but I just don't like them as much, because it's almost... I've always thought it was like forced difficulty. It is difficulty in and of itself, but I just prefer difficulty in terms of one guy being ferocious and crazy sort of difficulty. I don't like it when you got multiple people all around you. You're fighting the camera, you're fighting multiple actual dudes. It's just a bit of a nightmare. That said, once you learn that this is basically a DPS check, and you just gotta kill, then it becomes way easier. In fact, if you're fast enough, it's not a multi-target fight, because you can kill them before the new ones spawn. Very cool aesthetic. You have to drop into the actual abyss to see them. You're just in an arena of darkness. Again, I can't remember the music of these ones. The visual of the actual kings themselves is amazing. So even though it's multi-target and a DPS check, and I don't like being time pressured, by the way, that's a negative for me. The aesthetic and the significance of the abyss, it makes it much better. I'm going to go ahead and put this in a C. I preferred it to Gravelord Nito, I'll say that. I'll try and put these in order in each tier, and I preferred the Gaping Dragon to the Iron Golem. So, next up, Asylum Demon. Oh, and Stray Demon and Demon Firesage. Oh, these are in order. Right, the three big, rotund, big boys. Okay, the Asylum... I'll just do all three of these together, I think. The Asylum Demon was the first one. That's the intro boss of the game, where you try hitting him with your broken short sword, it does fuck all damage, and you run away. And then you jump on his head and plunge him later. That was actually... I actually really liked that in terms of just an intro to a big boss. It was big, it was scary. It was the first boss you see in all of Dark Souls, and it's a massive big fat dragon. I mean, or demon. So this is actually that rates it high, but then at the same time its moveset is a bit limited. Just a couple of slams. Very basic moveset. Easy for an experienced player to kill, but terrifying for a new player. I'm going to put it in a C. A C is going to contain like everything. Stray Demon, that was the one below the Asylum Demon, isn't it? The one where you return to the Asylum later, you drop through the floor, and this motherfucker's here waiting for you. I remember that being way harder than the Asylum Demon. And he had like a Nova explosion attack, which was dangerous. Definitely more challenging than the Asylum Demon. So I would rate it better, just because it was actually difficult. I found the arena much more limiting as well. It was darker, it was harder to see, there was pillars and shit in the way. So I'm going to actually put that I reckon, as a B, a low B, high C. Now, Demon Firesage was a step up even from the Stray Demon, wasn't it? Because they had extra. It was the same moveset, I believe, but just with fire novas and fire shit as well. And it was before Izalith, wasn't it? At the end of the Demon Ruins. I'm going to put that very similar, but I would say it's basically the same, honest to God. I'll just leave them together. Next up, it's the youngest son of Gwyn, Dark Sun Gwyndolin, behind the illusory wall, and you've got to pray to the statue to get to him. Yeah, I didn't particularly like that fight. I don't think I saw the most of it. I was just sort of running down a corridor trying to catch him, like getting obliterated by magic along the way. In my experience, he just wasn't particularly fun, or the only challenge was not getting destroyed by endless magic shit coming at you. And then once you reached him, you basically obliterated him. So it was a strange, unique fight, and my experience was that it wasn't that fun, to be honest with you. If I'd have been using a magic build, maybe it would be way more fun and you'd be going like toe-to-toe with him, but my experience wasn't great. I'm tempted even to put it into F tier. I'll refrain. I just don't have much positive memory of that fight at all. It wasn't really a fight. So I'll put it in an E tier. Next up, it's his father. It's the biggest of the big. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. What a final fight that was of the series. Of the game. I remember the piano music being nice and beautiful, and like a big contrast to the ferocious motherfucker coming at you. So that was interesting. He has a super cool, fiery, old sort of king visual. The arena of the kiln of the first flame was awesome. It was like a perfect last boss arena. In terms of actual move set and just sort of challenge, I found it very, very challenging. Especially because I was trying to use a shield, and his fire damage alone hurt you through the shield. So all my shield shit, my defense that I'd relied on for the entire game was like useless against this guy. But then I learned you could parry against him. And then I fucked him in the A. And it was very, very fun. Ooh, it's either an S or an A. Ooh. For now, I'm going to leave him as the highest of the high A's, just because I know there are some bosses I preferred to Gwyn, and they're going in the S tier. So I'll leave him as a super, super high A, but I might notch that up to a low S a bit later. So calm down if you really like Gwyn. He was an awesome boss. Next up, Crossbreed Priscilla. Okay, now I added this skipped tier for a reason. Because if you saw my first playthrough, you know I skipped Priscilla. So I don't know anything about her. As I said, I've never seen anyone's playthrough, so I don't know what she's like to fight. I should really go back and kill her at some point. If I was judging this based on visual alone... But no, I never fought her, so it's not fair for me to judge, sadly. Priscilla, I'll fight you in the future. Next up, amazing chest ahead. Chaos Witch Quelaag, that's spelled incorrectly. That's got 2 E's. This was a pretty amazing boss. I think I got this on my second attempt. Almost had it on my first, if I remember right. I remember really liking this. Pretty simple attacks, some fire slams. I remember it, and all the lava covering the arena, sort of limiting the size of the arena. But it was such a large area, that didn't really matter. You could just drag her away. Very, very cool design. I mean, like, S-tier visual design. I can't remember the music. Just a terrifying spider with a beautiful babe on top. So it's like a centaur spider. So, great design. I would say that the actual challenge was pretty fun. It wasn't so ridiculous with all the fire that you died 10 times. Do you know what I mean? It was pretty easy to master. I actually really enjoyed that. I'm going to put her as a low A, I think. Yeah. Next up, Taurus Demon. That is the big horned... Oh, yeah. Huh. The guy on the walkway approaching Red Dragon. Yeah, I remember. My god. Okay. And I've seen the Centipede Demon is next. This is strange, because both of the... Well, let's do Taurus Demon first. He jumped off. He did that cheese move, which I obviously didn't know at the time was a cheese move. He jumped backwards off the whole bridge and killed himself. And then he became a regular mob down in the Demon Ruins. So, I mean, a few basic slams, but other than that, pretty easy to read once you learn those slams. And I didn't like the way he could just jump off. I don't know if the developers intended for that to be a thing, but it kind of detracted from my personal experience, and that's what this tier list is. This is my experience. So just because it's possible for him to just fuck himself, yeet himself into oblivion and kill himself, I'm going to put it quite low, sadly. Visual is pretty cool. It's just a big, thick demon, you know, but the actual fight itself was just cheesed for me, and I didn't enjoy that. And Centipede Demon, this one was so disastrous for me. Taurus Demon yeeted himself off backwards for a cheese death, but Centipede Demon wasn't even cheese. It bugged out in the ceiling and died within like 10 seconds of the fight. So sadly, either this is going in the F tier or skipped because I didn't fight it. Do you know what I mean? So the visual design is amazing. It was sitting on the wall. As soon as you enter the Demon Ruins, you can see it from the distance, and it's just a terrifying looking thing. But because it died so fast, and people in the comments said it's such a shame that happened because it's such a fun, crazy fight, it's upsetting, but I think I'm just going to put it in the skipped tier. Next up, oh Jesus Christ, Ceaseless Discharge was ceaselessly kind of annoying. I can't remember how many times I died on this. I don't think it was too many. I looted the black cloth armor of his sister, I believe, and I think I put that on and then kill him whilst wearing it for added insult. Well, this one seems like a bit of a gimmick boss to me. It was just a massive lumbering thing. The hitboxes of his arm slams I remember as being almost laughable. Like you would get hit and it just visually was nowhere near you, sort of a thing. And that fire fucking 9,000 meter long fire blast in the entire area was ridiculous. It seemed like a bit of a meme boss, not to be taken too seriously, and it just wasn't particularly fun. That's all I can say really, so I'm going to put that in probably an E tier, above Gwyndolin. But it just wasn't an ordinary boss. There was no challenge, particularly just kind of get lucky with rolling from the arm and then kill him. So E tier, sadly. Next up, Capra Demon. Ooh, another boss that became a regular mob later in the Demon Ruins. I prefer this guy, the Capra Demon, to the Taurus Demon, just because he's smaller, faster, more furious, and he's got a big sword. And that's what I like in a boss. Sword, furious, one target. So I actually really enjoyed the Capra Demon. I got him on my second attempt, which apparently was quite good, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. To the point where, I mean, you master it pretty quickly once you get to the Demon Ruins. I'm going to put that as the highest of the B, and I'm going to leave it there for now. I might change it later. Next up, this is an optional boss, I believe, an Ulasil Dragon, Kalameet. Now this one, people are probably going to really hate me for, and disagree with me. There are some dragon bosses that I really enjoyed. This, I enjoyed more. This was not a great fight for me. It was masterable. That's a positive, because I love it when you can fully predict and master a boss skill-wise. That's a positive. The camera, I felt, was more difficult than the actual boss itself. So it's not amazing to me, but the visual is S tier. A big black fucking dragon. It's like Deathwing and Smough put together, and Alduin from Skyrim. It was S tier design. The moves weren't terrible. They were masterable and quite easy to dodge. It was such a dangerous fight. It took me like 10 attempts, I think. I'm going to put this as a C. Yeah, I just didn't particularly enjoy it as far as dragon fights go. The camera was so tricky for me in this. I will put it above those ones though. So it's a high C. If it's not clear, I prefer just a humanoid boss. Just a single target humanoid boss with a weapon swinging at you. That's my favourite kind of boss. Big spectacle bosses are very, very cool visually, but they tend to be challenged. Not challenging, but they tend to be sort of challenged. Like, not great in terms of movesets and camera, and they tend to be very clunky in a game like Dark Souls. And that always notches the big bosses down a peg for me. Next up, Belfry Gargoyle. There should be an S there, because there was two of the fuckers. That was the first boss I found super challenging. It was the first, I believe, multi-target boss fight. Now, it's only 2, not like 7, but that, how much more difficult was it because there was 2? You know what I mean? That was the difficulty there, that there was 2 of them. It was a rude awakening. I think I ran off the roof like 6 times. Like, it was brutal to be so early in the game, in my opinion. It was a hell of a rude awakening for a new player. In terms of actual moveset, it was quite decent, very easy to learn, which is probably a good thing to be so early in the game. But my memory wasn't particularly fun. My memory was like hitting my head against a wall. Largely my own fault, because at that point I had not gone to the blacksmith or upgraded my weapons. Like a complete fucking moron. So that was my fault. I'm gonna put it as a C. Next up, oh dear. Bed of Chaos. Okay, well, is it E or it's either an E or an F? This was clearly just a spectacle fight. There was no skill to this. There was a massive sweeping attack from the entire area, which could just randomly hit you. Randomly not. Then you just had to go to the 3 weak spots and just stab until it's dead. That's it. There was no sort of real skill involved. It was more of like a, oh shit, there's big shit happening. Run to the weak spots. Boss killed. You know, so there wasn't much skill. The aesthetic was kind of strange. I didn't get a chance to really appreciate it because you're getting fucked straight away. When you fall down that slide, you're just getting swiped, so there was no chance to really appreciate it. I'm going to put it in F tier, because I feel like it wasn't a boss fight, as strange as that sounds. I hope you agree. I can't remember the music either, so I'm going to leave that as in F tier. Next up, Sanctuary Guardian. Now wasn't that the big sort of winged lion thing that first fights you when you first get to Ulasil? I actually really enjoyed that thing. I think I got it on my first attempt, didn't I? It was either first or second, and I found it great. Nice variety of moves. It was kind of highly agile around the arena, but not so difficult that you were just getting slapped. I really enjoyed that fight. So I'm going to put that as probably a B. I wouldn't quite say it's an A, but I did definitely have fun fighting it. I'd say I preferred it, honestly, to the Capra Demon, so I'm going to put it as a high B. That was great. Next up, Pinwheel. Now, this is going to be, again, very subjective. I know a lot of people like the story and the lore behind Pinwheel, and apparently his story is very sad. But this is just my one-time experience. It was not great. I got it first attempt, and it seemed absurdly easy. He split into like 60 guys, and almost taking no damage, I just went from image to image to image, slaying them with a single hit, until I discovered which was the real Pinwheel, and I killed him in like 3 hits. Just strangely easy. So I don't know if I was over-leveled or whatever, but it seemed a little gimmicky and easy, so difficult to rate. But I'm just going to put this as probably like a D or an E, like it was just kind of strangely easy, sadly. Next up, Seath the Scaleless. Now this guy was before all the Lord Soul people, wasn't he? Wasn't he from the Age of the Everlasting Dragons? So one of the OG motherfuckers of the universe. He was very, very large, wasn't he, in that arena with crystal shit. And you had to destroy that little crystally light thing to make him vulnerable. I discovered that immediately, fortunately. I remember this being, again, sort of gimmicky. Like, he seemed very, very slow. Like, you could just get to his side if memory serves, and kind of just sit there hitting him. His attacks didn't seem particularly dangerous. I feel like they could have made him way more dangerous, especially for a dragon. He just kind of sit there on his ass, literally. He's got a very, very cool visual, though. He's the only scaleless dragon in the series, and he's such an important character to the story. So that's high, but the actual boss itself was not particularly challenging, but I remember it being not particularly memorable of a fight, if I'm honest. So I'm going to leave him as a C. He's only that high because of the story and the visual, in my opinion. Next up, Ornstein Smough. Now, I remember this being very, very fun. I think I killed this boss between 2 episodes. I fought him at the end of 1 episode, and I believe I nearly killed him. First attempt, and then I came back in the next episode and did kill him in that first attempt. So it only took me 2. I love the individual aesthetics of both of them. Ornstein he was very agile with his spear, and Smough was a big old boy with his massive hammer. They contrasted each other very, very well. One was fast and agile and crazy and chased you around the arena. The other was kind of slow, but if he caught you, you were fucked, basically. So very, very cool, like S-tier visual. Clearly not so frustrating that it took me 1,000,000 attempts, because I got it in 2 attempts. So even that's a positive. This is either S-tier or A-tier in my opinion. Ooh, it was the culmination of Anor Londo as well. The whole level of Anor Londo was S-tier. And I think Ornstein, I'm gonna put it in S-tier. It's the first S-tier. I remember thinking at the time, it's a shame I killed it so sort of fast on just my second attempt, because I wanted more time fighting the boss. Definitely an excellent boss in the first S-tier. Next up, the final boss of the DLC, Manus, Father of the Abyss. Now this was a mixed bag. I remember actually enjoying this, but I've been told by lots of other people that most people hate this boss. I remember quite enjoying it. You know why? All of his big old swipes with his arm thing were very learnable and predictable, and I like that. The only dangerous thing really was his 5-slice combo, and I particularly loved the dark shit that he does, the dark nuking, but you can use your necklace of the dark shit to repel. That was so cool. I really enjoyed that. I'm not going to put it in S tier, because it was a bit too sort of big and cumbersome, and I didn't enjoy it that much, but I'm going to put him in an A tier, and it was a great last boss of the DLC. It was very difficult and satisfying to defeat. I'm going to put him as a low A. Next up we have Moonlight Butterfly. Ooh, this is a strange one. Let's break this down. Visual, just aesthetic and design, and the visual of the boss and the arena, S tier. It's probably the most beautiful boss, just in terms of like heavenly and nature and everything. It's a gigantic butterfly with sparkly shit around the arena and like nature and plants and stuff. Very cool visual, but the fight sadly was F tier. for my experience, because I was a melee only character, I had no range. Effectively, I had no magic. Ironically, I did kill it with the Chaos Storm fire ability, because I did come to the garden way late in my playthrough. I think I did the demon runes and everything first. It is extra punishing for melee characters. You have to wait for it to cross the bridge, and then I think you could hit its feet. Other than that, you had to wait for it to land on the edge of the bridge, I think, and then you just get free hits. So for melee, it was a very strange fight. Definitely a great fight, I reckon, if you're a magic build or whatever, because then you're going toe-to-toe in the sky with a butterfly, you know? So if I was a magic build, this would have just been S tier, but for my personal melee experience, it was kind of just not great. So I'm going to put it... The visual is so beautiful, though. As I said, it's probably my favourite visual boss. That bumps it up to a D, in my opinion. It was just so stunningly beautiful. Next up, oh my god. Knight Artorias. The man, the myth, the legend. The dude himself, motherfucking Artorias the Abyss Walker, compatriot to Sif up there. Ooh, now, what have I said all these years? My favorite boss is just a humanoid dude with armor and a fucking sword. That alone makes it at least A tier, in my opinion. Then the fact that his moves are very, very cool and flourishy and flippy, with a little bit of magic thrown in there. I enjoyed that fight so damned much. It's everything I want in a boss fight. And I do mean everything. The music was strangely peaceful, if I remember, which is an odd thing, but his visual is amazing. You can get his armor, I think, in the second game. Or is it the third game? No, it's the third game. He was so iconic you can get his sword in Dark Souls 2 and 3. This is an S tier. Who the fuck are we kidding? This might be my favorite boss in all 3 games. I'll have to go through the list entirely to see, but I can't think of a single guy I liked fighting more than Artorias. At this point, I was deep into shield blocking and stamina, and I got so strong at this point that I was tanking Artorias and going toe-to-toe with him, and that made me... It's just my experience. It made me feel so fucking strong to go toe-to-toe with Artorias himself that the satisfaction factor was fucking sky high. It felt so good to fight him and finally kill him. I think it took 2 attempts, and each attempt was like 20 minutes long. So it was like a long fucking grisly battle. It was fucking perfect, in my opinion. So that is tippy top of the S tier, Artorias. Next up, that's Dark Souls 1 complete. There you go. There's a snapshot of Dark Souls 1. We're on to Dark Souls 2, and first up is Vendrick. Okay, the king himself who fled away from Queen Nishandra, because I believe she was gonna suck up his soul and become more powerful or something. Okay, mixed feelings about this boss, but let's just put it in its place first. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put it as a low E. Now let me explain my feelings. King Vendrick himself is a very interesting story character. He is the king of the entire kingdom of the second game. At this point you fight him, though he has gone hollow and he's just wandering around. The mechanics of the fight were kind of nothing. I think I got him first attempt and it wasn't close. He had very, very slow individual slams. It took no skill whatsoever to survive against him. So in terms of mechanics, it was absurdly easy and to the point where it really didn't feel like a boss fight. Now, what bumps him up from an F to an E is the story. He is the king of the place, and he's got so much lore behind him that you can learn through descriptions and so on, that he's very interesting of a character. And you can touch his armor and speak to the man himself in the past, I believe, which is interesting. And so much of his story is around the giants, and the fact that you need the souls of giants to weaken him is actually interesting, and that's what bumps him up from an F to an E. In terms of an actual boss fight, it was barely a boss, sadly. Great beard, though. Next up, Velstadt, the Royal Aegis. That was the guy defending his room, wasn't it? Just before Vendrick. Now, that was way better. That's what I like, just a dude with a weapon coming at your ass. Nice learnable attacks, pretty dangerous and ferocious. It's kind of everything I want in a boss. I mean, it's surprisingly high up. It's not S tier or even A tier. It was a bit one-dimensional, if I remember right, sort of just basic attacks. Relatively easy, nothing too special about him. I'm going to probably put him as a high C, low B. I'll put him as a B. I did prefer him to these big boy demons from the first game, so I'll put him right there. Next, twin Dragonriders. These were the 2 Dragonriders on top of Dranglake Castle, after you meet Nishandra, I believe. And you already fought one dragon. In fact, yeah, don't you fight one Dragonrider as a boss? Yeah, you do. Huh. Well, I'm going to put those 2 together. Let's do one Dragonrider first. That's strange. Yeah. Let's do Dragonrider, the first Dragonrider. When you first get to Hades Tower of Flame, what a painful place that is with all the fucking dangerous knights. The run back of that is ass. But fortunately, I got him first time, I think. And I learned later there was a cheese where you can just get him to walk straight off the edge. So it wasn't particularly tricky or challenging. Quite easy to predict. It doesn't stand out as particularly memorable in my opinion. More like a big, tough single enemy than a boss. So I'm just going to put him as probably as D. It's not very memorable at all, and it's too easy to cheese. Twin Dragonriders. One of them is up top with a bow and is shooting your ass. Multi-target fights. It's automatically lower than than one single Dragonrider. I'm just going to put them together. They weren't memorable or awesome in my opinion. Next up, Throne Watcher and Throne Defender. That was the first stage of the final boss, I do believe. But fortunately, my desire to explore above being fast with progress meant I went to the boss arena, and turns out you can kill the Watcher and the Defender separately from the final boss if you are not ready to fight the final boss. And that, apparently, I was told, makes the final boss way easier, which is good because it let me have a single experience with this boss, aside from Nishandra. Because if I'd have fought them all together, I don't know how I would rate these. Now, the one instance where I don't mind multi-target boss fights is when one of them will hang back, for example, while the other one rushes you. And like one is like ranged and magic and one is melee, which is exactly what this one is. So as far as multi-target fights, this is about as good as it possibly gets. And it sort of negates the negative for me. So I actually enjoyed this fight. The Defender coming at you thick and fast, and he's easier to kill than the Watcher. Now, I know I can't remember, there is some healing mechanic, isn't there? Where I think you need to kill both, otherwise one revives or something. It's not that memorable, hence I can't particularly remember, but I do remember that I didn't dislike it. It was kind of just decent, and it was a nice prelude to the final boss. I'm going to put that as I'll put it below Seath the Scaleless. It was a fun fight. Next up, the Rotten. One of the Lucatiel summon fights. I redid those 4 Lucatiel summon fights in New Game Plus, I believe. In New Game Plus, just for the solo experience. So I did eventually solo them as well. And the Rotten seems like a bit of a gimmick boss. The aesthetic is amazing. It's like the fucking culmination of death and rot, literally. So I actually really enjoyed the gruesome nature of the aesthetic. But the boss itself wasn't particularly amazing in terms of mechanics. Actually quite easy, just slow, easy to, like, telegraphed swipes. So actually quite easy. As long as you didn't step in the fucking fire. So I'm going to put this as probably like a low C. It's either high D or low C. It wasn't amazing. It was surprisingly easy. All of the levels before it were infinitely more difficult. All those spitting fucking statue things, etc. The run back was easy because the fire was actually very close to the fog door. But yeah, I'm just going to believe it as probably a high D for now. I might up that to a C later. Next up, the Last Giant. It's funny and ironic because the Last Giant is the first fucking giant you fight, I believe. How strange is that? Okay, so the Last Giant. You get down into the bottom of that whole churchy place, and then you walk in and you kill him. Now, I remember this being very easy. In fact, didn't I get him first attempt? Very, very easy. Just had like a double swipe. As with any giant or big, slow, lumbering thing, just like go behind it or between its legs, and it's not hitting you. So I found that very easy. Very cool to find the Last Giant though, so the story and the lore is pretty interesting, but the mechanics of the fight just weren't great. Again, I'm going to put that in a D tier. It was more intriguing and interesting and cool than it was mechanically fun. Next up, we have the Dukes. I'm losing my voice. I'm talking too much. So, Duke's Dear Freya, that was the spider, the double-ended dildo? No, the double-ended spider thing that was under the mouth of a dragon. And I can't remember who that dragon is, but there was some strong story implications there. Mechanically, it was interesting because I believe it was like practically made of stone, so the only vulnerable spots were its two heads. Fortunately, it was quite easy to get to its heads. Its attacks were pretty predictable. If I remember right, it summoned a bunch of ads, which isn't fun for me, personally. And it had didn't have like a crazy beam, but it was easy to just run to the side of, so mechanically, okay. Visual was amazing. I mean, terrifying, actually. Way scarier than Quelaag in terms of spideriness. But it wasn't truly amazing. I'm just going to leave it as a low B. Next up, Smelter Demon, and I've just quickly checked. The blue Smelter Demon isn't on this list, so I'm going to have to roll up the original Smelter Demon and the blue Smelter Demon in one boss. And that's almost a shame, because, I mean, let's break them both down. I'll have to average them out, I guess. The first Smelter Demon is halfway through the Old Iron Keep, whatever it's called, the fiery lava place. I remember that being quite a fun fight. I believe that was another Lucatiel fight, if I remember right. But I did solo it. Very learnable attacks, which is good. It was a big, scary, cool demon. The aesthetic was great because of that. So this is definitely one of the higher Dark Souls bosses in terms of visuals and sort of mechanics of the fight. But then you've got the run back was... The regular Smelter Demon, the run back was sort of okay. All those tall motherfuckers in the Iron Keep were dangerous, so it was a bit dangerous and difficult. Fortunately, I got it on my second attempt, I believe. But then, contrast all of that, the blue Smelter Demon later in the... I can't even remember where it is. The run back for that was possibly the single worst run back of any boss in all of the games ever. What a horrible... I think I got the blue Smelter Demon, fortunately, also second attempt, so I didn't have to spend much time running back, but what a horrible fucking place that was, with those casters that slow you down and everything. Now, I don't know why, but the aesthetic of the blue Smelter Demon I prefer. Just blue fire is cool. Otherwise, the same moveset. I think halfway through the fight, he empowers his sword and becomes stronger. So visually very cool. The runbacks are a bit of a pain, and I am including that in the rating. So, you know what? I'm gonna give it, I think, a C. It could be way better. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it as a C for now. Next up, Skeleton Lords. Okay. Now, I believe there was there 3 of these lords, or was there 4? I think there was 3. And there was I remember this, there was a shitload of ads. Fortunately, they were very, very... they were one-shot kill ads, so they were very easy to dispatch. Fortunately, the developers put in some indestructible pillars in that boss arena, so you could just hide behind the pillars and easily dispatch the ads. So in terms of the whole multi-target thing, not a problem because they weren't overwhelming. The whole multi-target thing is only a problem when you've just got so much shit coming at you. It's stressful, and I don't deal with stress well. The visual of the fight, it's like the center of all fucking death and skeletons. It was very cool. The music was good. I'm going to leave this as a B. It wasn't great. I would have preferred one massive dangerous skeleton, but it was definitely B tier. Next up, it's a biggie. Sir Alon, the samurai legend himself. Dark Souls 2 with its runbacks, at least they had the mercy that 12 kills of all the mobs permanently despawned enemies. It was either 15 or 16 attempts to kill Sir Alon. So at that point, I had despawned all the mobs on the runback. So the runback started hellishly, but it ended easy. So the runback was an absolute fucking pain. But I loved this fight. I love a samurai and a katana aesthetic. Right off the bat, that's an S tier. He looked dangerous. When he did that shit with his sword and he started glowing red, it was like, oh shit. I felt the danger and the panic. You could learn every single one of his attacks perfectly. Because some bosses are a bit too ferocious or whatever, and they're just too stressful to perfectly master the fight. Sir Alon might be the one best boss in Dark Souls for being able to master it, and by almost no hit the last final attempt. And I love that. That shiny floor was amazing in the boss arena. Aesthetic, S tier, and the satisfaction of mastering it was S tier. Ooh, it's either a low S or a high A. I'll leave it a high A, but I might bump that up to a low S later, once I get a couple more S's. It was a very, very good fight, and I enjoyed it immensely. Next up, Sin the Slumbering Dragon. As far as dragons go, I did prefer this to Kalameet, wherever Kalameet is. I did prefer it to Kalameet. The camera was still a problem, because Sin the Slumbering Dragon has that particular move where he swoops down, and if you're locked on, your camera is fucking all over the place, which does detract from the fight. I don't like having to fight the camera as much as the boss itself, so that is a detractor. But visually it's very cool. I love the fact it's still got the spear in it from when dude in the story fought him, but I can't remember. The details are lost on me. Very cool. His fire attacks were interesting. As far as dragon fights go, it was one of the better ones. So I'm not going to let the camera thing detract me too much. I think this was probably a B tier. In terms of all the fights where the camera's a problem and it's a big enemy, which can be mechanically quite challenging, it was definitely one of the better ones. So definitely B tier, it's not below a B. Next up, Scorpioness Najka. Najka? Very interesting aesthetic and design to the boss. Very similar to... I've thought about this. Very, very similar to Quelaag in terms of just... the upper body of a beautiful woman and the lower body of a horrific fucking monster. Only now that I put them side by side have I realised they probably just completely took the inspiration from Quelaag. I enjoyed it. I love the move where she goes under the sand and then she pops up and fucks you. Definitely one of the better bosses of Dark Souls 2. I love the Scorpion aesthetic. She had a grab move, I believe, which just one-shot you. Very, very cool. It's not an A tier though. I reckon that's probably a B tier. She had some very unique abilities and attacks, so mechanically she was very interesting, so I'm going to put it as a high B. Next up, OMG. Ruin Sentinels. I remember the Ruin Sentinels ruined my day when I fought them. The actual worst example of when I don't like a multi-target fight. Okay, so we had 3, and these became regular mobs, I believe, later in Dark Souls 2. It's either an E or an F. I'll put it as an E, because for something to be an F tier, it's got to be not even basically a boss fight, like it's just a full gimmick. And it wasn't. It had some challenge, some learnable moves, etc. So it's not an F tier. But at the same time, I really didn't enjoy it. The run back for this one was a fucking pain. Almost worse than the Blue Smelter Demon. And it was a fucking pain, because you start at the top of the arena where one can attack you, but very quickly you've got to drop down, and you've got all 3 on your ass, and they have a massive lunging attack that closes distance, and you can't even see, because you're like locked onto the closest one, which is in front of you at this height, and then the other ones are jumping above you, and slamming your head, and you can't even see them. So, camera was a nightmare. The fact there was 3 of them was a nightmare. The moves were decent and learnable and sort of interesting, but nothing special. E tier. Next up we have, both the Royal Rat Vanguard and the Royal Rat Authority. Okay. Vastly different fights. The Vanguard, I believe, was the swarm of little rats, which is very strange. It's almost like it's not, again, it's kind of not a boss fight. It was just lots of little rats. But who's to say that's not a boss fight? Just waves of enemies, you know what I mean? Who am I to judge? In terms of actual, aesthetic, it was just a bunch of fucking rats. The whole challenge of that fight was not getting blocked in and then nibbled to death. You just kind of have to swing away, and one of the little rats is the actual boss with the health bar, but I can't remember which one. But I remember once I identified it, easy, quick kill, so not particularly challenging, but kind of interesting. It's not an E tier. It was the first, waves of enemies boss. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I'm going to put it as a D tier. Anyway, next up, Royal Rat Authority, the king of all the rat dog things. That was the massive rat dog. Now that was fucking challenging. If I remember right, didn't I get that on the first attempt by the skin of my fucking teeth? I ran out of health flasks. I almost ran out of health, what do they call in the second game? Those health gems. I almost died, but I think I just managed it, so I had a unique satisfaction because I didn't die, which kind of bumps it up. It's definitely more interesting than the Vanguard because it's actually massive. It was like a poor man's Sif. You know what I mean? It was just a big dog thing, but uglier, shitter. It had ads, which was a nightmare. It's not particularly memorable. I'm going to leave it right there with the Vanguard. D tier. Next up, the Pursuer. OMG, the Terminator himself, who kept chasing you throughout the game. Now, I can't remember the specifics. All I remember is that he kept showing up. And at some point, he started to get dark spell movesets, which made it way trickier. But once you learned his attacks, his actual sword swipes, he became easy. And it wasn't that difficult to begin with. I killed him on my first attempt in the actual boss arena with the health bar. Very strange, but very cool. I like the idea some guy's been sent to just hunt you down and kill you, and he just is relentless. He is a pursuer, so he's got the intrigue factor. Nice and easy to master. He's just a dude with a sword and a suit of armor, which I like. I'm not going to put him in A tier, I'm going to put him as a B tier. I did enjoy swatting him round the mouth and killing him multiple times. Every time he showed up, I'd slap him back down again, and that was fun. Oh, my list is expanded. I'm going to have to scroll now. Next up, Prowling Magus and Congregation. This was the boss that was down into the crystally dead place that led to Duke's Dear Freya, if I remember right. I remember this being so easy that I got in the first attempt. A couple of targets, that's the congregation part of it, but I remember it just being kind of a basic caster, barely worthy of being a boss. It could have just been a strong mob, to be honest. So it doesn't stand in my memory as being particularly awesome at all. I might even put it in E tier. It was basically just wasn't a boss in my mind. It was easy, not much to learn, just dodge some simple direct spells. I'm going to put it down there. I wonder how many people are just completely disagreeing with some of my ratings. Okay, next up, Old Iron King. Now this might be one of the coolest aesthetics of all bosses. I know a lot of people shit on Dark Souls 2, but they got some designs of mobs right. A big, the chunkiest of demon boys. This Old Iron King was like the Taurus Demon on fucking steroids, and the cutscene where he emerges from the lava is just S-tier cutscene, where this boss falls down. I'll tell you where one thing fell down. I fell down that tiny little fucking hole in the arena that's there for no reason. But S-tier design, the moves were so amazingly easy to dodge and figure out. The only reason I died once was because of that fucking hole in the arena's floor behind you. So, not great moveset, but just aesthetically awesome. So I'm gonna put him as a C tier. I want to rate on aesthetic alone. He's the coolest fiery lava demon you ever saw, but just in terms of boss fight mechanics, it was very, very easy. Just go to his side in the arena and just keep attacking, and then it's easy, so low C. Next up, Old Dragon Slayer. Ooh, yeah, that was the, it was basically Ornstein. Now, I still don't know in the lore, etc., if it actually was Ornstein. It basically is Ornstein, so I'm going to treat that as if it is literally Ornstein and he survived the attempt. He survived the shit of the first game, you know? Very, very cool. He lunged like a crazy bastard, just like he does in the first game. The run back to him was a fucking nightmare. The Knights of Hades Tower of Flame were a fucking nightmare. But I enjoyed fighting him. He slapped me down a couple of times. I reckon that was a good, strong B. It wasn't as good as Ornstein and Smough together, but he was still dangerous, still fun. I'll put him as a high B, actually. It was quite a fun fight. Next up, Nashandra, the final boss of Dark Souls 2 base game. She had a very cool visual. She was she wasn't skeletal, but she had that black and white skeleton dead, Queen of the Dead aesthetic. She was a little bit gimmicky in the end, because it turns out, from what I remember, half of her difficulty was curse. So if you in Dark Souls 2, you had that curse hood, which blocked all curse buildup, which was the most overpowered defensive clothing item in all of Dark Souls. So wearing that meant you took no curse buildup, and it was just a fucking cakewalk. It was easy. It was a very gimmicky item, and it kind of negated any difficulty of Nishandra. Outside of the curse thing, she had some interesting attacks. I remember that white death beam was kind of cool, but it was just a bit too easy. So I'm just going to put that as a vague D. It wasn't everything I'd hoped for a final boss. It was just a bit too easy, in my opinion. Next up, oh Jesus. Mytha, the Baneful fucking Queen. The serpent fucking woman who was holding her own head, and yeah, she was at the top of the windmill in the poisony place. Forgot its name. The same place that actually makes a reappearance at the end of Dark Souls 3. That boss fight was kind of strange. I killed the boss with the poison still in the arena. I've been told that I actually did really, really well to do that, and you are expected, and I did this later, you can fucking wash all the poison away, which I can only assume makes it 60 times easier, but somehow I just never found. I never set fire to the windmill until the end of the game, so I didn't know that, so I was just getting poisoned. So for me, and my personal experience, it was basically just a DPS check. I just had to kill her as fast as possible, while continuing to cure poison. So, very strange, unique experience, and I don't think I did it the way you're supposed to do it. She's got a very, very cool Medusa aesthetic, which is very cool. The actual moves were very interesting as well, actually. So she's gonna get a pretty high rating. I'm gonna put her up in a B somewhere. I'm going to put it there. I prefer the Sanctuary Guardian, but not the Capra Demon. There you go. Next up, you have Lud and Zalan, the King's Pets, the two final tigers. In fact, where is the actual the first tiger? Because I might as well do them together. Let's do that one first. First up, the Ava, the King's Pet. That's the first big tiger you come across, and it's invisible, if I remember right, until you get an item or you do something. But I'm not counting when it's fucking invisible, and that's kind of cool. Once you can see the white tiger, I found that to be a very fun fight. I kind of enjoyed the fact that it had some ranged magic, if I remember right, like magic missiles for a defense thing, and it makes you want to fight close range, which is dangerous. It had a grab move with its mouth. It was kind of a very cool tiger. I enjoyed that fight a lot. Did I enjoy it enough to be an A tier, though? I don't think so. I think it's another B. I'll put it below Gaping Dragon. It was a decent, fun fight for me, but it wasn't excellent. And then following that one, Lud and Zalan, the King's Pets. This was basically an exact copy of Ava, same moveset. I remember, same swipes and everything, but there was two of them. And I think they have the addition of like some dark spells and shit. So that is officially, I've completely forgot about that run back. That fucking snowy hellscape that you find yourself in. Those lightning deer, or whatever the fuck they are, horses, were so miserable. I truly went hollow in that episode. It was a horrible run back. I think I only had to do it once though. Unfortunately, you didn't have to run through the entire level. It was only the last sprint, but even then you had like 2 or 3 of those deer things on your ass. Horrible run back. It was a copycat of the Ava, the King's Pet boss, but there was just 2 of them, so it was extra difficult. Multi-target fights. I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as fighting Ava, the King's Pet. It was way more miserable. I'm going to put that as a bottom of the D tier. Next up, we have the Lost Sinner. Look, another Lucatiel summon fight, and I did summon her for this fight. So my first impression was obscured. We then later came back and did a solo attempt in New Game Plus just for the experience. And it was way fucking harder when I was fighting without Lucatiel. I remember there was 3 ads, wasn't there, that come in at some point, and they were kind of really annoying. The Lost Sinner herself was very fast and furious, but learnable. You could easily master her attacks, so mechanically decent. The ads were a bit of a detractor for me, so I'm going to put her as probably a low B. Next up we have the Looking Glass Knight. Literally, looking through the looking glass, his shield was a mirror that could summon an ad. But there was only one ad and it wasn't that bad. I remember putting lightning on my club and slapping this dude on like the second attempt. Very interesting. Nothing too special about the attacks other than the fact he can use his mirror to summon. That was interesting. But otherwise, kinda slow attacks, kinda relatively easy mechanically. The aesthetic was a generic kind of big old knight. So not bad, not awesome. I'm gonna probably put that as probably a C. Put it there. Why not? Next up down the bottom we have Guardian Dragon. This was the final boss, I believe, in Aldia's Keep, wasn't it? At the end of the long corridor of monsters and horrible shit, you go outside, and then you fight the Guardian Dragon in that circular tower thing. Now, I've got to say, I don't have much memory of this. I think I must have got it first attempt, but it really doesn't stand out in my memory. And that fact alone means it can't have been that great. Or maybe it's only because it took me one attempt and I can't remember it because I didn't spend much time on it. It seemed like a very generic dragon compared to like Sin, the Slumbering Dragon, or even like Kalameet, or any named dragon. Doesn't even have a fucking name. So it was kind of like, I'll put it like there, between the Rotten and Dragonrider on D tier. It wasn't memorable at all. Next up we have the Giant Lord, the boss at the end of the memories, the memory of Jay, the memory of etc. when you click on the sparkly trees. I remember that fight being strangely easy. The regular mobs were more difficult than that boss. And the incoming, I remember the bridge, the incoming fireballs from the sea were way tougher. Dodging those was tougher than that boss. The Giant Lord was far too easy. In fact, I remember the last giant. I remember the last giant being tougher than the Giant Lord. Strangely easy. He had a super slow telegraphed slam, and then you just put 60 slashes in his foot and kill him. It was too easy. I think I'm going to put him, honest to God, right there. Actually, I might put it down to an E tier. The run back was a bit of a pain, and was all the difficulty of that boss. You know what? I'm going to put it down to an E tier. I was disappointed with how simple it was, considering it was supposed to be the fucking Lord of the Giants. That could have been such a cool spectacle of a fight, you know? But it wasn't, so E tier. Next up, we have the Fume Knight. Ooh, now this one might be divisive. Although, shit, all of this could be divisive. Fume Knight, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. A lot of people probably don't think it's this good, but I liked it. It was probably, honest to God, out of all the bosses of the second game, it was probably my favourite. It came back to that whole thing again. It was just a dude with a dangerous dude with a sword. He had some fast attacks, a variety of attacks, including fire, flamey attacks. It only took me like 5 attempts, which is like the perfect amount of time to spend on a boss. So it wasn't frustrating at all. I found that I could master it relatively easy. Aesthetically, it was just like a charred, fucking dangerous motherfucker of a knight. So, S for aesthetic. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't think of much that I dislike about it, if anything. That's why I've put it in S tier rather than A. I can't remember the music, but I mean, how much is that going to affect my rating? I just remember that being probably the most fun fight of Dark Souls 2. It's fucking close actually with Sir Alon. Ooh, it is. Because I like Sir Alon basically equal. Just because of the run back being a bit more of a pain, and the fact that it took me so fucking long with Alon. I'll have him just below the Fume Knight. So I'm going to leave Fume Knight as an S tier. Next up, we have Flexile Sentry. Another boss that became a regular mob later in the game. Although it was always dangerous, even when it was just a mob. It was fucking hard. This was the first boss I summoned Lucatiel for, but I did go back and solo it for my own experience. It was dangerous. I mean, I've got to say, in terms of visual and just aesthetic and design, very, very cool. It's like a double-sided warrior. 2 dudes fused at the back. One side with swords, the other side with a hammer? Or an axe? The sword side was fast and furious, the other side was slower and heavier hitting, and that's very cool. You could even position yourself around it and pick which side you wanted to fight, so that's very cool. I was expecting to rate this one lower, but now I think about it, it was a very cool mob and boss. The first boss arena where you actually fight the boss version is a bit small and miserable. It was in that ghost ship, so the arena was nothing special. I'm going to put that as probably a B tier, but like a high B. Let's put it below the Pursuer. Next up, Executioner's Chariot. Now this is a fucking S tier for design and uniqueness. I mean, Jesus Christ. There's literally nothing else like the Executioner's Chariot. So, S tier design, S tier uniqueness. I can't remember any story or lore to do with this dude, and it was a bit gimmicky. Because you can take refuge like I did, just where the fog door exit is, and he doesn't hit you, so I just kept shooting arrows at him, cheesed it, and then he fell down the hole. Several people commented that they'd never seen that, so a little gimmicky, and not difficult because it was too easy to cheese, which really harms the rating. I'm going to put that as a C tier. I'll put it at the bottom of C. Cool aesthetic, but it was just cheesable and not too great of an actual mechanical boss fight, in my opinion, so that notches it right down. Next up, Elana the Squalid Queen. Now, she was the first boss of that DLC, the preliminary boss before Sin the Slumbering Dragon. Now, I've got to say, as I sit here, I can't remember too much about that fight. I remember she summons, I think, 2 or 3 skeleton ads, which were actually a bit difficult because she was in just an open arena. There was no pillars, and you know how much I love pillar combat. So I couldn't hide, you just had her and the skeletons on your ass at the same time. I don't remember her being particularly interesting in terms of moveset or anything. Easy to kill the skeletons as long as you got a distance from the boss, and then just attacked her. Dodge her quite easy to dodge spells. It's so vague in my memory, but it doesn't stand out as particularly memorable or awesome. I think a strong middle of the road. I'm going to put her above Nishandra. I just can't remember much about her, which kind of speaks volumes. Right, we've got to the point where this is so big now. I can't zoom out anymore because you won't be able to see the icons. But so now we've got to scroll to see the boss, the ones upcoming. Next up, Demon of Song. Now, Demon of Song, that was the horrible frog thing with a face at the end of the blue, twinkling, horrible, miserable place. These are great descriptions. I do remember very, very vividly. I loved the aesthetic of that boss. It just looks terrifying. It looked completely unique to everything else we've seen before. The movesets I remember were quite interesting. You had some long-range gap closes. It was dangerous to be in front of it. Didn't it spew out water as well in waves? So very interesting. So I'm going to put this... It's better than a D. It was so intriguing and so interesting, it's got to be at least a C. It's either high C or low B. Let's put it low B. Next up, Dark Lurker. I'm going to drag it onto the thing just so you can see the actual list. So, Dark Lurker, where are we going to put that? It was a very difficult area, that fucking whole place. The run back was kind of miserable because of it. Every mob in that area before the boss was so tough, they were like a boss themselves. And I died several times. Very difficult boss, but masterable, which is cool. It took some serious skill. You did have 2 targets, so it was multi-target, but I found it wasn't too stressful. Like, when one thing was attacking you or whatever, the other one was kind of just chilling in the background, so I'm not going to let that detract from my rating. I will say the aesthetic was beautiful. Kind of strangely, I reckon Dark Lurker was the most beautiful boss in all of Dark Souls 2. Just visually, the angel wings and everything, so aesthetic is an S tier. The actual challenge and satisfaction of killing it was very high as well. I'd say like A tier. The run back was like fucking D tier. I'm going to put that as an A tier. It was very, very difficult, but I enjoyed overcoming that challenge. So that's a good thing. It was challenging, not frustrating. So it's an A tier. I'll put it as a low A. Next up, we have the Covetous Demon. I do believe, again, let's put that up here so I can fucking see. That was the big old gigantic slug, Earthen Peak. That's what it was called. Where you fight Headless Serpent Woman. Myth of the Baneful Queen. So yeah, the Covetous Demon was the first boss in that whole area. Now, I strangely loved the aesthetic of that. I don't know why. It was a pretty shitty boss fight. Nothing special, the attacks were just kind of comical. It was just a big fat slug. And I don't know what this says about my personality and my character. I just loved the big fat slug. I think I spent 90% of my time fighting that, just like giggling internally. Just, it was a big, friendly, fat slug. But it wasn't a great boss fight. That those just dodge its belly slams and its rolling to the side. The only bump up in rating is going to be the comic factor, that it was a big fucking funny slug. But otherwise, it was just D tier. Next up, Sarah, Varg, and Grave Robber. This might be the second worst multi-target fight. I spent all of that fight doing nothing but running away until a tiny opening appeared where I could get one hit and then continue to run away. Sorry to say, it's not my idea of a fun boss fight at all. It was just running away until there was a tiny opening. And then once you killed one of the three, it was just increasingly easy to then get the second and then the final one. Just not fun. Just not funny. There was some challenge to it, I guess, so I won't put it in F tier, but it was not fun for me. Probably my least favourite boss of Dark Souls 2. It is a toss-up between that and the Ruined Sentinels. Next up, we have the Burnt Ivory King. Now, yeah, I'm not putting everything in S tier, just keep in mind, I'm just putting it up there so I can see the full tier list. Burnt Ivory King, the final boss of that DLC in Dark Souls 2. It was a strange boss fight, because it was 2 phases, wasn't it? The first phase was like a bunch of basic fuckheads. There was 3 portal things that you had to like... I still don't know what you did, just killed a couple of mobs and it sealed that portal. So an interesting sort of waves of enemies first phase, which I don't have anything against, that it made it quite interesting and fun, kind of unique. And then the real boss fight was the second phase, where it was you versus the fuckhead. Now, I've got to say, aesthetically, it was right up there with Sir Alon and the Fume Knight. It was just a big dude in a suit armor with a fucking sword, and his sword was terrifying because it could, like, make it magic, like, 70 foot long and impale your ass. And he did impale my ass. This is either an A or an S. I really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the Fume Knight more, for whatever reason. The interesting first phase was, it was kind of multi-target, but not really. It was just like a waves of enemies thing, so that doesn't really detract from it. I can't remember much of the story and the lore about this guy, but his aesthetic was very cool and his arena was exceptional. I'm going to put him as an A tier. I might move him within that, but he's definitely above B. Next up, we have the Belfry Gargoyles, the Dark Souls 2 version. I was confused for a minute there between the Dark Souls 1 version and the 2 version. This was the one on the roof at the top of the Belfry place, and there were, I believe, up to 5 or 6 of these things can appear. Now that was even worse than the Dark Souls 1 version. That only had 2 big old fuckers, gargoyles. This had like 5 or 6. But I remember them being smaller and easier in this game. Now, I don't know how that places it in terms of difficulty, but I remember not particularly enjoying the fight. Yeah, I mean, it ultimately is as simple as that. Like 5 gargoyles that all trickle in. Kind of challenging, but, I mean, just I'll put it as like a low C maybe. Or should I put it as like a high D? No, let's put it as a D. I remember just not really caring about it either way. Multi-targets. I'll put it down here. Yeah, why not? Next up, the Ancient Dragon. Okay, well this is a nice easy one for me to rate. Hang on, what's going on here? Hang on, What's going on? There we go. Ancient Dragon. Skipped. Yeah. This was the big boy dragon. I took multiple... In fact, this guy is in one of my thumbnails in the series. Friendly dragon. And for the same... I didn't fight him and kill him. For the same reason I didn't fight Priscilla. He seemed friendly. I think he gave me some advice. And he was just sitting there chilling. And I didn't want to spoil his day, so I never fought him. One day I will have to replay these games. And then I'll be able to rate him properly. So, let's move on to the final boss of Dark Souls 2. Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin. Now, where are we going to put this? I can't remember much about this. I mean, I can remember that he disappeared into the ground and then he keeps sprouting up at different spots. And I believe he has like a fire aura some of the time. You had to keep a distance at some points. I remember this being like quite challenging because of that. And his fire was crazy. But I don't remember it being a particularly, like, satisfying fight. Something that is in his favour, though. He plays a large part of the lore and the story of the second game. He holds your hand through most of the game. And doesn't he fight you to test if you're prepared to destroy Nishandra? Which is interesting. Unless I'm completely wrong. I'm just going to put that as a B. It was interesting. It was a challenging fight. I enjoyed all the fire. But it was not too hard. So I'm just going to put him as a B. He had a very, very cool voice, I will say that. That takes him up from a C to a B. Now we move on to Dark Souls 3. First up, Vort of the Boreal Valley, the big old fucking chunky dog guy who charges around. And I used his club till the end of the game. Alongside a couple of other weapons, but his club might be my most used weapon. I enjoyed that fight. It took some mastering, especially his charge moves, because it was very, very hard to gauge exactly when you had to have iframes to not get just flattened. I will say one small detractor is the breath attack that he does, because it's very, very easy. Once you know it, it's very, very easy to just dodge to the side, and then you've got like 10 seconds to slap him to death. But not counting that, very, very interesting. He has an exceptional visual. Frosty, like ice cold giant dog, which I've found very interesting. It was a skill check very early on in Dark Souls 3. I found it very tricky. I might put that as a high B. I enjoyed that fight a lot, but it wasn't quite S tier, and I don't think I'd put him A tier either. Next up, Half-Light Spear of the Church. One of those bosses that doesn't particularly have much of an identity. He was just protecting Princess Filianor's body and egg, etc. It looked like an ordinary mob, but it fucking hit you hard. It was very difficult. And you had to kill the big fuck first. It was probably one of my least favourite Dark Souls 3 fights. On average, I reckon most of the Dark Souls 3 boss fights were all pretty good. But it wasn't one of my favourites. I'll just put it down as like a D. Next up. Oh wow, the final boss of the base game. Shit, man. Soul of Cinder. This fight was very, very cool. I caught on very quickly that Soul of Cinder was basically an amalgamation of all the previous Fire Linkers. And yeah, I enjoyed the fact that it had different movesets and basically different personalities sort of came out. One little moment it turned into a caster like Gwyndolin, and then I believe Gwyn's music starts playing and he starts turning into Gwyn with his slashes. Very, very cool final boss of the entire series. And ultimately, it was just a dude with a sword swinging away. Nice and masterable. Took some skill. It was a very nice send-off for the whole series. It's definitely an A tier. I'll put it up there. It was a very, very fun final fight. Next up, another big one. Jesus Christ. We're coming out hot with Dark Souls 3. Slave Knight Gale. The final boss, if you do it in order, the final boss of all the trilogy. And people pointed out in the comments how it's a very tragic end. It's just you and Gale at the end of the world, end of time, just slashing away in a world of ash. Nothing remaining. So kind of a tragic, somber fight. Very, very cool. It had 3 phases disguised as one, health bar. And I maintain what I said when I fought him. The first phase was the hardest. He had some very cool, unique abilities in phase 2 and 3 with all the red shit everywhere. The magic crossbow. And I liked the long lead up to, we knew Gale was coming because there have been so many mentions of him, up to that point. So he was definitely a highly rated character. I'm going to put it as a low A. I think most of the dudes on this A tier here I enjoyed more than Gale. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people put him as an S tier, but I think I prefer I preferred Ivory King more than Dark Lurker. And I enjoyed Gale more than Dark Lurker, so yeah, there. A tier. Next up, Sister Motherfucking Frida. OMG. Talk about fucking difficulty. Talk about shock factor. When phase 3 began. I thought phase 2 was hard enough with the big old dude. The big dude chasing you slowly and slamming down on you while she keeps a distance. Very, very difficult fight. That was a battle of attrition. That was a long 3-phase fight. And it was so fucking brutal every time you died, knowing you'd have to get through phase 1 and 2 again. Just to get slapped back down again by phase 3 Black Flame Frida. So very, very challenging, but I would say not frustrating. It's a very, very important distinction between frustration and challenge, which is satisfying to overcome. And I would say definitely towards the more satisfying end of the challenge scale. I didn't find it frustrating. It was grueling to fucking die again and again. But it was very fun, and overall, once I won the fight, it felt so good. I'm gonna put her up. It's either A, B, or S. Alright, how much did I enjoy fighting her and overcoming her? It was an A tier at least. It was like a defining fight in Dark Souls 3. It was like an end of the trilogy skill check fight. It wasn't a DPS check, it wasn't a frustration check. So, I'm going to put that as an A. Just because it was extra challenging for me, I'm going to put her above Gale. I enjoyed it a lot. Next up, Pontiff Motherfucking Sullivan. Now, here I might be the most divisive in all of this video. I bet a lot of people rate Pontiff Sullivan. I have so lost my voice. I bet a lot of people put Sullivan like an S or an A. Where do I want to put him? I found this very, very challenging towards the frustrating end. Because I like mastering fights. I like being able to learn people's attacks and abilities. He does split into 2, so he becomes a multi-target fight. And my biggest problem was his slashes and his combos were so severe and so ferocious. My personal experience was it was very, very hard to learn and master, and when I eventually defeated the boss, I felt like I hadn't mastered anything more than I did 4 attempts ago. It was just as difficult, and I felt like I just got a little bit lucky on that final attempt, which it didn't feel satisfying. Once I defeated that boss, I was like, I just looked that victory right there. It was just a bit too crazy for my liking. So a lot of people will hate me. His aesthetic was amazing. He had 1 fire sword and 1 magic purple sword. He was tossing motherfuckers down to Aldrich to eat down in his lair. So interesting story. So high B I'll put him at. Sorry if that disappoints you. Old Demon King. Now this was the big giant tree one, not to be confused with the old Iron King. He was at the bottom of the demon ruins, wasn't he? Area. That whole area was a bit of a cock in the ass, but a fun cock in the ass. The actual boss fight itself, I would say, was one of the most masterable fights in Dark Souls 3. It hits you as crazy and dangerous and this mad fucking thing that kept killing you over and over. But in the end, I learned to dodge almost every attack perfectly, and by the end of it, I had that satisfaction of having mastered a boss fight. So, where would I put him? It wasn't that amazing though. I do prefer humanoid dudes with a weapon. I'm gonna put him probably B tier. honestly. It was a bit grueling, a little bit frustrating to master. I think I'll put him above Gaping Dragon. There you go. Next up, Oseros the Consumed King. I believe he was an optional boss, and he was, in that weird place that behind him was dark Firelink and very, very strange story and lore that I still don't understand. But the actual boss fight itself, it was like a big ferocious dog, wasn't it? With 2 phases and an invisible baby. I liked how ferocious it was without being absolutely overwhelming. So it had like the ferocity, but it wasn't just like ridiculous. So I enjoyed it. But it wasn't like, it doesn't strike me as particularly awesome. Like there's nothing too special about it. I'll just put him as a C tier for now. Next up, ooh, it's a biggie. Okay, Nameless Motherfucking King. Can you guess where this one's going? That's correct. Nah, who the fuck am I kidding? S tier might, I'll have to check the rest of the list, but might be my favourite fight of Dark Souls 3. I did prefer it to Soul of Cinder. I like the story and the lore that this was pretty much confirmed to be the firstborn, the eldest son of Gwyn, who was exiled and became nameless, and he was like the OG king of the Dragonriders. Very, very cool. 2 phases, but it wasn't multi-target, it was single target. The first phase was like easy enough with a cool big dragon, and then phase 2 was the real. It was beautiful. It was basically everything. In fact, I'd put that above those 2. It was very, very good. It was a perfect, like, dangerous fuck. If you got caught by his attacks, you were fucked. But it was learnable. It was quite easily masterable. Very cool aesthetic. It was like Ornstein on steroids. I enjoyed every moment of that fight. And the reason it's so high in S tier, I can't think of a single thing I would improve about that. The arena was like a fucking cloud. You were in the sky fighting the firstborn of Gwyn. It was fucking spectacular. So I really, really enjoyed that. One of my favourite fights out of all of Dark Souls. Next up we have Lothric, the Younger Prince. Lothric and Lorien together. Very interesting fight. I think the story and the lore there is probably more great than the actual mechanics of the fight. You had Lothric on the back of Big Brother Lorien. I enjoyed reading the descriptions of them and some of the issues that they faced in their lives. I can't remember the music. The aesthetic was cool. It was like 2 princes, literally. Very unique in terms of one boss riding the other boss. The attacks and mechanics were sort of interesting. The way that they could teleport was fucking crazy, but predictable and learnable, but very dangerous to get caught. I'm going to put that as probably a high B. I don't think it was good enough for me to put in A or S, but it wasn't bad either. It was pretty good and fun. Next up we have Udex, I think that's how you pronounce it, Udex Gundyr. And you know what, I'll put Champion Gundyr together and we'll do them at the same time. Udex Gundyr was the first boss, not counting that Crystal Roly Boy at the very start of the game. Udex Gundyr was the tutorial boss. I've got to say, just right off the bat, I way prefer Champion Gundyr. Udex Gundyr had that thing where phase 2, he explodes into the giant ugly wormy fuck, and then he just slaps your ass and balls, and it's just pain. And I know it's probably down to my own lack of skill, and the fact that it's the first boss in the game really doesn't help that fact, but I found that I couldn't predict what the fuck it was doing. In retrospect, I think it was, after having watched my own fight back, it would have been easier and more manageable to watch what the actual dude under the worm was doing with the halberd. But in terms of the actual worm attacks, it was so crazy I couldn't see when the fucking attacks were coming, and I just felt like I was winging it. And in fact, I cheesed it with some pyromancy fireballs at distance, making it way easier. I really didn't particularly like it. I've got to say. Gotta be honest. So I think that's probably best of the D tier. It wasn't dog shit. It was a tough fight. The challenge was decent. Maybe I'm being unfair. It was a hell of a positive, like, oh shit, introduction to the game. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I'm going to put it in a C tier. And I'm going to put it above Executioner's Chariot and below Old Iron King. And then Champion Gundyr was basically everything I would have wanted from Udex Gundyr. Just a big, crazy, ferocious fucker with a weapon. It goes back to that basic shit. Humanoid, armor, weapon. Nice and simple, easy, identifiable, one-on-one boss. It's just, that's everything I want from a fight. And it had no wormy shit. So, I mean, take the worm bullshit from Gundyr, and you've got Champion Gundyr. He was ferocious, his red glowing eyes were menacing. This guy's like a high B tier, if not an A tier. I'm going to put him as a low A tier. I think he's better than B. It was kind of everything I would look for in a boss fight. You'll notice most of the A's and S's are just humanoid characters, just a dude swinging a weapon. It's simple. Well, not counting Sif. And Champion Gundyr was just another one of those. I think I'd put him above Dark Lurker, actually, but below Gale. We're going to have a lot of Dark Souls 3 bosses up here. Next up, High Lord Volnir. Okay, right off the bat, S-tier aesthetic, but aesthetic ain't all there is to a boss fight. I can't remember much of the story of Volnir. Like, I don't remember reading much about him in terms of descriptions of stuff. His aesthetic was S tier. I mean, probably the best aesthetic, just fucking terrifying. You descend down that steep hill, and then it just suddenly comes into view. A colossal fucking skull staring at you, breathing in the distance. The scariest shit in all Dark Souls. But the fight itself, I mean, I think he does that sort of earthquake attack, and then that fucking insta-killed me in the first attempt. And then I basically very, very quickly identified that his bracelets were a weak spot. Easy. I think I identified it immediately on my first attempt. Once I saw that immediately, it became kind of easy, not counting the earthquake move which killed me. So the mechanics of the fight weren't particularly... They were unique and interesting, along with the design, but kind of a gimmicky boss. It was very large, very cool, but not particularly difficult. I'll put it up above Udex Gundyr, C tier. In fact, the aesthetic is so crazy. I'll put it as a very high C, I think. Next up we have Dragon Slayer Armor, another boss which then turned out to be a regular mob. I say that, I think there was only one other one later in the game, and I didn't kill it. It was in the Black Crystal Swamp area. But the actual boss on the bridge, it was basically a gigantic, chunky, but almost like slower and harder hitting Ornstein. Literally looks like Ornstein's armor. So very interesting, its connections to Ornstein. I liked how you could master the fight. He had very predictable slams and stuff, which like were so deadly. You couldn't get hit by a single one. It was intriguing that you had the fucking tree dragon carpet bombing the arena every now and then. That was an addition of stress which I didn't feel I needed. I'd have been happy just fighting the boss, so that's a slight negative. I don't have much negative to say about him. I'm going to put that as a very low B, I think. I enjoyed the big, dangerous, humanoid aesthetic, probably more than Volnir. Next up we have, oh god, Curse Rotted Greatwood. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to piss some people off with this. I might piss some people off with this, but I hope I don't piss people off with this. I'm putting it in F tier. I'm putting it above Bed of Chaos. It's either low E or high F. I'll leave it there, but it does have one thing over the Bed. The Bed of Chaos was just a gimmick, just a spectacle, and was kind of not really a boss fight. This was a boss fight, but it had like waves of a shit ton of enemies in the first phase, those 2 phases. My problem with it was just too fucking big. The music was cool, but very loud. I had to turn my volume down. With very sort of like terrifying music inside this massive cathedral sort of place. So the actual arena was interesting. I didn't like the millions of ads in the first phase. The boss was too big, and it took me like 20 minutes per attempt, because most of the time you're just circling the entire thing, dodging its attacks and waiting for an opening. And then some of its weak spots were hard to hit. And I found I actually needed my Pyromancer to reach them, so it didn't seem friendly at all for a melee-only build. I just didn't really enjoy it. I might be a bit unfair there, it might be an E tier. Almost every boss I can think of in Dark Souls 3 was better than that. I just didn't enjoy it really. So, F. Sorry. Next up we have Champions, Gravetender, and Wolf. Okay, so under the tower in the flower field, inside the painted world. The Gravetender himself, just a puny dude with a shield, that he wasn't shit. The fun part of that boss fight was the actual wolf, which was kind of, in terms of just raw mechanics, I would say just as cool as Sif. Just crazy, agile all over the place. Not quite as good as Sif, because Gravetender Wolf didn't have a gigantic sword in his face. And I think there were like a few ads, which detracts because of the whole multi-target thing. So I did enjoy fighting the wolf. Its crazy charging about was insane, but masterable. And I loved the aesthetic of fighting in like an open field of white flowers and crystals and shit. So it definitely had some positives. Way more than negatives. I don't think it was an A tier. I think it was B tier. I'll put him as in the middle of the road. I'll put him between Iron... Yeah, between Iron Golem and Velstadt. Decent B tier. Next up, Demon Prince. Or the Demon Princes, which combined into one Demon Prince. Thanks for letting me know in the comments that the one that you fight is actually, it depends on which of the two you defeat first. Because apparently that changes the moveset, so I'd love to try the other one if you see what I mean, for what I had in my experience. But it's a very interesting fight. I kind of liked that whole area before the boss, and then jumping one hell of a fucking height into the base of that tree to get into the boss fight. It was very, very cool. And I did that after getting my favourite armor set in the game. And I don't know why, but it was just my experience in the boss fight. It was elevated because I was wearing that armor, which was the most wonderful surprise. The best surprise in Dark Souls 3 was getting that armor set back, because it was the set that I wore in Dark Souls 2. The Desert Sorceress set. I enjoyed the fight. The mechanics of the fight don't particularly stand out to me, so I'm not going to give it an A tier just because of that. But it was a great fight. It was challenging. The arena was fucking amazing. It was literally, I was told later, it was basically Filing. The ruins of OG Filing Shrine, which is crazy cool. So it's definitely going to be above a C, but it's not as... I didn't find it as fun as the A tier ones, so we're going to put it in B, and we're going to put it above Vort of the Boreal Valley, right there. Next up, Deacons of the Deep, like the 67 dudes. You had the thin dudes, the bigger round dudes. I identified pretty quickly that the glowing red one was the one to kill. So this was the king of all multi-target fights, but it really doesn't count because they are slow moving, and it's more like a gigantic slow wave of enemies. If I remember right, it was timed, wasn't it? So that it was like a timed fight with a hard mode, where if you took too long, they did that shit in the sky, the cursey shit, and it just fucking killed you. So you were on a time limit. And it was kind of fun just slaying lots of people at once. So it wasn't like... I'm not going to put it down here, it was actually quite a fun fight. It was fun slaying all the fucking deacons of that church that I had taken so long to clear of enemies and progress through with its giants and everything. So I'm going to probably put that as a C tier. I'll put it above High Lord Volnir. It was quite a fun fight for being a multi-target fight. Best of the multi-target fights. Next up we have Dark Eater Midir. I think it took me, I want to say 10 attempts. I've got to say, in terms of dragons, I kind of wish I had like a dragon tier list. In terms of dragons, let's just try and compare it at least to the other dragons. I way preferred it to Kalameet. I don't know why, but Kalameet was probably my least favourite, not counting the unnamed guardian dragon. I never fought the ancient dragon, so I don't know. but it might be my favourite dragon that I've fought. Better than Seath the Scaleless, better than... What other dragons have we got? I'm not the biggest fan of, like, massive bosses, as cool as a dragon is. That said, got to say, Dark Eater Medea, upon reflection, is my favourite dragon. It's so fucking dangerous and ferocious. It's not an S tier because it is so big and ferocious that the camera was a problem for me. Even without locking on, like, he is so physically large, his attacks are fucking all over the place. But by the end of it, I had completely mastered every single one of his attacks. His dark beams were fucking crazy. In a good way. Even those dark beams were masterable. So I really enjoyed it. Probably my favourite dragon. I might even give him the lowest of the A's. Yeah, I enjoyed it more than Lothric, Sullivan, Demon Prince, but not quite as much as the humanoid bosses. So definitely low A. Next up, Dancer of the Boreal Valley. The slashes that Dancer did, the slash combos were fucking crazy. I can't remember how much I cheesed this fight, but I remember there being some indestructible pillars that I could use, and maybe I just suck, but I struggled to master this boss, especially the combos were so crazy. I felt I just had to get an attack and then fuck right off before I got wrecked. So I'm not going to put in an A tier, but it was a very challenging fight. Midway through the game, it was a decent, like, midway challenge. The arena was very cool. It was in the church room with Emma. I'm going to put it, like, right there. Moving on, we had Crystal Sage. There was two of these, wasn't there? There was one in the library later, and then one earlier in the ruins. Quite a weak boss in terms of the health pool. The real challenge was dodging the magic shit. That said, I remember, once you got point-blank range, it was shockingly easy, because most of the danger of Crystal Sage was like sky shit that the Sage would summon, and like it would rain down on you or whatever, but they didn't do that if you were point-blank range. They would resort to basic slices, which are easy to dodge, and you could get in some easy attacks before they teleport away. So, I wouldn't say cheesable, but once you get close range, it's surprisingly easy. So it's kind of like bottom of the road C, it's kind of just average in my opinion. Next up we have Ancient Wyvern. That was the preliminary first boss of the Nameless King's hidden area of the game, wasn't it? I assume you can kill that going toe to toe with it, but then it seems like the proper way to kill him is what I did. You go all the way around and then do the plunging attack, sort of fixed one-shot kill thing on its head. So it wasn't really a boss fight. It was just sort of a scary, dangerous dragon which was trying to fucking kill you as you go around the level, and then you insta-kill it. But I assume you can actually fight it then and there as a boss. And I've got to say, if that is the case, it must be very, very difficult, because I was doing fuck all damage to it. So if you actually fight that as a boss, it must be really hard. But it was very gimmicky. But it was still fun. It was a very, very cool visual. Outside of Dark Eater Medea, it might be the coolest visual of a dragon. It was fucking terrifying to see that swoop in when you first enter that area. That was terrifying. But the gimmickiness and the plunginess take it down a notch. It was still very satisfying to bonk this thing on the head. So I might put this as like a low C again. Next up, Aldrich, Devourer of the Gods, who has Gwyndolin as a head. Now this boss was crazy. The variety of the abilities of this boss were almost S tier. So in terms of like mechanics and variety, S tier. The aesthetic was also pretty fucking amazing because it ties in with the story. It's a gigantic sludge thing that has subsumed Gwyndolin. And that's got all sorts of interesting story implication, and I love the story. So design is S. I think I enjoyed this more than I initially thought I did. At the time I was like, cool, interesting spectacle, but whatever. But looking back on it, the design is S tier, the music was great. It was scary as fuck because you never knew what the fuck it was going to do next. It had ranged attacks, close attacks, one wrong move and you were fucked. I actually really enjoy. I don't think it was S tier, but it was A tier in my opinion. Let's do a couple of movements. I'm going to actually lower Quelaag a little bit. I'm seeing some of these dudes, and they were better and more fun than Quelaag. So I'm going to put Quelaag at the bottom of the A. And in terms of Aldrich, it might be the most unique boss fight. Just strange and fucking scary and weird. Very cool. Honest to God, could have been the final boss of Dark Souls. And the crazy story would have made it a cool final boss. I'm going to put it below Aldrich. No, below Midir. There you go. Very cool. I liked it. Oh my fucking long list. I've got no voice remaining, but we're on the final one. We have the Abyss Watchers to round out the list. Okay. Abyss Watchers. Come on, let's get my brain working. I've been here for like 3 hours. Abyss Watchers. It was a multi-target fight until it wasn't. That was only the first preliminary phase, so that doesn't really detract from it. It was an easy multi-target first phase because they attacked each other. I think they only attack you. I think there was only ever 3 at once, and 2 were always attacking each other, so you only have had 1 on you. So technically it wasn't multi-target. But let's focus on phase 2 when they roll up into one dangerous fire slamming fucking motherfucker. I think that was the first boss in Dark Souls 3 that's like a hard, I want to use the word check. It was like a hard skill check, but more than that, it was a hard mastering check. Like once you mastered the specific slams of this very aggressive fucker that chased you, once you mastered it, it was then easy, but it was the first boss that you really had to learn where his fire slams were going, and then you just learn where to roll, and it becomes easy. So the first proper mastering fight, the mastering ones are extra satisfying to me to actually master and win the fight. I don't think it's quite A tier. I think this might be tippy top of the B tier. I just like how much of a skill check it is. Yeah, I'll put it at top of the B tier. Now, Jesus Christ, how am I going to show this on the fucking screen? Let's zoom out until you can see everything, eh? There. No, hang on, one more. Fuck me, sorry if that's so small you can't see it. But it is what it is. I'll do a quick passing visual of all the tiers, so you can see for yourself. I'll just slow scroll through them. After I finish this list, I might well change some of them, but you know, I feel pretty happy with where I've put everything. Let me know how you feel about my choices and if you gravely disagree. I feel like a lot of the things, the middle of the road ones, people might agree with. There's only 1 or 2 that I think are really divisive. For example, Sullivan. I reckon a lot of people really like Sullivan, but it's just kind of, for me. I think some people might really like Curse-Rotted Greatwood and like Giant Lord, for example. Especially Pinwheel. People might like Pinwheel, but let me know if you agree with my choices, disagree, and let me know why. I want to know your opinion in the comments below. I'm sure this video is long enough, so I'm not going to string it out anymore. It's a bit of a long one, but I enjoyed it. I might do more tier lists. Let me know if you want to see a tier list of location, because I know there's a location tier list of Dark Souls as well, like levels and places, and that might be really fun to do as well. So let me know if you'd like to see that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this. Some of the bosses were amazing, some were like, oh my god, but to be quite honest, even the oh my god ones, they are part of a larger experience. So even the couple that I put in F tier and the ones in E tier, yes, mechanically and whatever, they might have been a ball ache, they might have not been as fun as most of the other bosses, but in my head, I still don't hate them or dislike them intensely. Does that make sense? It's like they're F tier bosses or E tier bosses, but they are part of the larger challenge of the game, where you've got some great ones, some difficult ones, some frustrating ones, and it's part of the package that is Dark Souls. I can't stress how much I enjoyed that package as one entire experience. What a fucking game series. Anyway, we're going to leave this here. Like this video if you liked it, like this video if you want to hear a guy who's lost his voice, and subscribe for similar content. Oh, All my social media links are in the description, and I have a Patreon if you want to go above and beyond to support my content and videos and playing of these games. I'll catch you guys in the next tier list video, I guess. Liquid Blitz.